think it's Kedai to go back to yesterday's daf, which was really a repetition of daf Lamed Zayin that talked about different chumras that Yecheskel Hanavi had taken upon himself. The pasuk says in Yecheskel Perek Dalet, "Va'omer, Aha Hashem Elokim, Hine nafshi loy metuma, unevelu etreifa loy achalti, min uray va'ad ato, v'loy ba befi besar pigel." And the Gemara says, what did Yecheskel Hanavi mean when he said these things? At first glance, it sounds like what he's saying is, I didn't do the biggest averis in the world. Yecheskel Hanavi is being mispair that he didn't do the biggest averis in the world, says the Gemara. Hine nafshi loy metuma, it means shalei her harti bayoim lovely day tuma balai. Unevelu etreifa loy achalti means shalei achalti besar kois which means he didn't eat from a behema mesukenes. V'loy ba befi basar pigel. What does that mean? Shlo yachalti mi behema shahir b'chacham. I never ate from a behema shahir b'chacham. Any behema that required a shelas chacham, that was not a behema that I ever ate from. Now in Daf Lamed Zayin, the Gemara brought this memra of Yecheskel Hanavi and the Pirish because of the fact that Yecheskel Hanavi said lo yachalti Besar kois me'olam, and this the Gemara brought as the 30 by Yisrael, the third makar to how you know that a behema mesukenes is really kosher. On Daf Mem Daled on the base, the Gemara brought it for the next line. Sure. Why did the Gemara bring it? Because the Gemara told the story about a treifa that it seemingly Rav held was a problem, and Rabbi Bar Bar Chana went ahead and he was mekel, and not only was he mekel, he even ate from it, right? He bought 13 astiri worth of this basar, and he ended up eating from it. And the Gemara asked a bunch of kashas on the story, but one of the kashas the Gemara said was that how was he able to eat from it? Avifali required a ras chacham, be it Rav, be it himself. At the end of the day, he required a hayra, and if Yecheskel Hanavi never ate from such an animal, so why would he have eaten from such an animal? And the Gemara came out, and the Gemara said that the reason this was different is because Rabbi Chana understood Hani Mili Milsa Detalya Besfara. This is only Negeya, a Milsa Detalya Besfara. But Rabbi Bar Chana Agmari Samach. Rabbi Bar Chana wasn't just saying a Boich Svara, right? Rabbi Bar Chana was saying something that he knew. What was the Shaila? Rav Ovya, Rav Chalala. But his psak was based on Meseira, and based on Meseira. So this idea, this halacha, does not come into this inyan. The Ramah in Yeridei Simin Kuf Tez Zayin Sivches says as follows. He says, "Behema shahir b'chacham misvara." A behema that a chacham paskind misvara. But the halacha that he paskin based on is not mefurish anywhere. Shehi muter is that it's muter. Bal nefesh lo yoicham imena. A bal nefesh shouldn't eat from it. So says the Ramah that if there's a behema shahir b'chacham lehatera, a chacham paskin that it's muter. But the way he came to his psak was based on svara. Why? Because v'lo nimtza hadin beferish shu muteres. It doesn't say anywhere mefurish that it's muter. If you're a bal nefesh lo yoicham imena, you should not eat from this behema. The Beragoyla says, what is the makar to this Ramah? It's the Gemara. Chulin Daf Lamed Zayin, Chulin Mem Daled. He's Mitzayim Mem Daled because really, this whole halacha comes more from Mem Daled than it does from Lamed Zayin. You see that Yecheskel Hanavi said that he never ate psar pigel, which the Gemara says means what? He never ate from an animal she'hayra b'chacham, and the Gemara qualified the halacha. What did Rabbi Bar Bar Chana say? Hani mili, that's only milsa detalya b'svara. But if it's not milsa detalya b'svara, then in that situation, this halacha is not going to apply. But the bottom line is, what do you see from here? You see that there's an idea that Yecheskel Hanavi was machmer al atzmai not to go ahead and eat from an animal shahir b'chacham yisvara. Says the Ramah halacha l'maisa bal nefesh lo yoicham imena. So this halacha is not negeya everybody, but it's negeya a bal nefesh. So if somebody's a bal nefesh, there's a Ramah in Shulchan Aruch that tells him what he's not supposed to do. Do not eat from a behema shahir b'chacham. The Pesachei Tshuva of the North brings a fascinating machlokes kadmonim. The Ramah said, "Behema shahira b'chacham misvara, v'lo nimtza adin beferish muteres bal nefesh lo yoicham imena." What would be if there's a behema that a chacham paskin is muter, or b'v'nimtza hadin beferish? It's mefurish that it's muter. Could a bal nefesh be machmer, or could a bal nefesh maybe not be machmer? In other words, the Ramah is saying that from Yecheskel Hanavi we learn that if there's a heter based on svara, it's a good thing to be machmer. Ad kedei kach, it makes it into Shulchan Aruch. Bal nefesh lo yoicham mimenu. If it's nimtza hadim beferish, so there's no halacha that a bal nefesh should be lo yoicham mimenu, because it doesn't raise to that level. Being that it's mefurish that it's mutter, it's not based on svara, so you have a higher feeling and sense that this is probably okay, and it's for that reason I'm not going to tell you now that I eat it. But what if I want to be machmer? What if I want to be so frum that not only do I not eat really nevelis and treifas, and not only will I not rely on a behema shehira b'chacham misvara v'lo nimtza adim beferish imuteres, I'm even going to go and be machmer with something is mefurish, like Rav Avya and Rav Chalala, which really is based on a Messiah. But it's a sugi in the Gemara. I don't know. I'm still not 100% sure. What if I want to be machmer even on something that's mefurish in the Gemara? Can I or can I not? Zok the Pischei Tshuva that I found that this is really a machlokes kadmonim. Just to read a little bit. Matzasi kasav v'chein im nafal iser beklisheni. If iser would fall into a klisheni, oy bekli rishon v'yesh by shishim. So we know the halach is that a klisheni doesn't have the ability to be mavashal. So what would be if somebody has a situation where iser was mitzdarif to heter, the chayim that you have is the chayim of a klisheni. So klisheni is not mavashal, that means it's not considered hot. It doesn't have the ability to impart blias and platus. So what would be if you have a taruvas issa of a heter, but it's in a klisheni? Or there was issa that fell into a heter, where it was a klirisha, but there was shishim to go ahead and be mevatel. Says the issa of a heter, that if somebody wants to go ahead and be marchik, mikol dover kir, mitzvah, you should know he's being mekayim a mitzvah. Unbelievable. So the Pischei Tshuva says he found from the Issav Heter that if somebody wants to be machmer, even on a din that's mefurish, this is something that he's allowed to do. Says the Pischei Tshuva, if that's the case, v'tzorach loymet, shekasav haramah, v'loy nimtzad din beferish lo yocham imeno, im kei mashma, de kam beklisheni, oy beyesh shishim, de nimtzad beferish ein lahachmer. So you have to say that what did the Ramah mean? Hainu she'in chiyav al bal nefesh lahachmer, avu mikol makom im loitza lahachmer gam bozem mitzvahi. Stating that, says the Pischei Tshuva, shuvro isi besoiles lamincha, klal ayin vav din samach, she'kosav b'shem teiras ha'osham. These are kadmoinim. The misha loitza lahachmer linig isi bedavish loimatzina shechmir amayrai. That if somebody wants to go and he wants to be machmer on something that the amayram were not machmer, kegoin. These two examples. Masha nispatel b'shishim. Oy beklisheni havi kemoy minus. He's mamish a min because he's being makrish divrei chazal. V'yotza schorei behefseidai u'deloi kamoy shakasav isav heter ha'arech. Not like the isav heter. So says the Pischei Tshuva, he found that there's a machlokes from the Poiskei HaKadmonim. What would be if somebody wants to be machmer on something where the din is mefurish? Avada, you don't have to. That's the Ramah, based on the Gemara Chulin Mem Daled on the base. But let's say you want to be machmer. Can I or can I not? The Isav Heter said that of course, because any time there's any little bit of a taruvas of Isser, even if it's in a klisheni, even if there's shishim, abakir, it's a shtickle disgusting, and if that's the case, mitzvah, there's no shaila in the world, there's a mitzvah to go ahead and to be machmer in such a situation. The Soilas Lamincha brings from the Teiras Ha'asham that if somebody wants to be machmer, not only is he doing a good thing, but to the contrary, havi kamei minos. So you have two opinions of how to view something like this, and it's literally min hakotza el hakotza. Either it's a mitzvah because you're being mirachik yourself from something disgusting, or it could be it's literally minus, which is yaharug al yaver, which is the most chamadig thing that a person can possibly do. I saw Rabbi Margolis in a Sefer Nefesh Chaya, which is his commentary that he wrote on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, and this is in Siman Reish Nun Zayin. So Toich Dvarav, he quotes this Pischei Tshuva, who brings from the Soilas Lamincha, who quoted the Teiras Ha'asham, Sefsoisam Yiv, Doivavais Bekever, who said this unbelievable chiddush, that if somebody wants to be machmer on something that's mefurish and chazal leheter, such as klisheni, being chayish, that maybe it's mevashal, or not relying on bittul b'shishim, it's a bechin of minas. And kedarkei b'kodesh, he is malak at different places where you find by the poskim and by the rishonim such an idea that if somebody wants to be machmer, b'makim she'amru chazal lahakol, not only is it not okay, not only is it not a hamachmir tavayol of bracha, but to the contrary, there's a chashash of minus. The first example, this might be the best known, this is in Shulchan Aruch in the Shabbos. It's in Erechaim Siman Reish Nun Zayin. The Ramah is talking about the laws of Shia and Chazara and Hatmana and how you prepare Cholm for Shabbos, which is, we have it down to a science, but it's really, in an old world, was pretty complex. Says the Ramah, V'chol misha einay maime b'divrei chachamim. Any person who doesn't believe in divrei chachamim, v'oiser achilas chamin b'Shabbos, and he says, I'm not going to eat chamin on Shabbos, because chamin b'Shabbos, this is tzi kompliziert. Chayshin on shema minhu, you have to be chayish that maybe he's a min. The Ramah used that lashon, chayshin on shema minhu, that if somebody goes ahead and he doesn't eat chamin b'Shabbos, you think he's a min. Now, Pasha, you learn this Ramah. What do you think of? You think of the tzedukim, right? You think of the kutim, of Har Grizim fame, right? That's what comes to mind. But after you see this Pischei Tshuva, the word min is a closely digger way of describing somebody that wants to be machmir, b'mokim that Chazal said it's mutter, and you're allowed to eat chamin b'Shabbos. And if you're going to go ahead and not eat chamin b'Shabbos because of some chumr yisera, v'chomish and imayim b'divrei chachamim, that it's okay to eat chamin b'Shabbos, and just follow the script. V'oisar achilas chamin b'Shabbos, there's an inyan chayshin and shema minhu. Another maramachim. The Aruv Margolis is Mitzayin, and this is a tshuva from the Maram in Rotenberg. It's in Dfus Levav, Simin Tov Kuf Nun Beis. So the Maram in Rotenberg writes as follows: Sha'alta al sheshamata, you heard shani noyek shaloi lecho basa behema v'chaya acher gvina. You heard about me, Maram Rotenberg, that I have a chumrah that after I eat gvina, after I eat cheese, I don't eat basa behema. Meaning, not never, but he waits a considerable amount of time. But I make it when it comes to basa reif. So says Maram Rotenberg, let me explain to you the rumor that you heard. B'mei churfi, when I was younger, I used to know people that took on this chumrah, and I used to laugh. The Adarabba, Sharali Mari, the Ebesha should be Moichome. Because when I used to see those people, I thought they were minim. Until Shapam Achas, Misudasa Lasudasa, one time I ate cheese, and then by the next meal, Matzasi Gvina Ben Shinai, I found a little bit of cheese in between my teeth. V'nodarti atzmi b'basar acha gvina, k'moy b'gvina acha basar. And I made a Kabbalah because I had such yiras achet that I'm going to be the same machmer for gvina acha basar, basar acha gvina. And I thought about it afterwards. I realized that even though at first glance I thought this was minas because you're going connected the Talmud, but really not. And I chap, this is not really a moisif gereya. Because the Gemara says in Chulun Daf Kofei, Anola Hamilsa Chalabar Chamra. Right, one of the Amiram said that I'm compared to my father like vinegar is compared to wine, which is not much of a comparison when it comes to the Nyanim of Chumras. The Ilu Abba, my father, Achal Bisra, when he would eat basal, they have a Achal Gvina Ad Lamacher. He would wait a full day until he ate Gvina. Va'ana, and I only wait Misudasa Lusudasa. Alma, what do you see from here? This sphere like this, that Misudasa Lusudasa is the ikra halacha, but afilu hachi mishabeach mishaisik devei ove varchaka yisera. Elo, you have to say kol elu advarim harchakis ba'al meninu v'chol chad v'chad matzi achmuri anavshi v'yasasiyog v'geder u'mishmeres. He said, you see mineu bay from the sugya of basar and gvina, that even to go more than 6 hours and to be more machmir than sudasa l'sudasa, if you're holding by it, that's a very chashav chumrah. So no, if you could be machmir to go 24 hours, me'es la'es, not going to eat meat until tomorrow because I had a coffee today or because you had gvina today. So why can't I be machmir and say that when it comes to gvina acha basar, if I'm going to, or in the reverse, to go ahead and be machmir? So it's for that reason, said the Maram Rotenberg, I came around. But Zakar Ruv Margolis, what was his muscharishan? B'mei churfi yisi misloitznates b'bnei adam hoisen came v'adarabba sharli mari. The Maram Rotenberg says the Eibush is omich moichel zayin hayanira be'enai minus, because I used to look at it, someone that's machmer b'chai gavna, I used to look at it as being minus. Brings another Maramakim. A Mefurish Rambam in Yad Chazaka. It's the last Rambam in Hilchos Shvuos. This is Perek Yud Beis, Halacha Yud Beis. Says the Rambam, Afal Pisha Mutar Lishal Ala Shvua, K'moisha B'Yarnu. Even though a person is allowed to be shoyal on a Shvua. So if somebody makes a Shvua and he wants to make a mutalach, this is something that you're allowed to do. The Ein Bozeh Doifi. And there's no daifi in this Indian. You're allowed to do it. And if there's someone who walks around thinking it's not so bad, you need shayla on a shvua. Says the Rambam. He's a bechin of a mit. Afal pikein royally zar bedavar zeh. Ve'in iskokin lehet elu b'nei dvar mitzvah b'nei tzorich gadol. V'toy v'gdei l'adam shlo yishav klal v'chulu. But the bottom line is, the Rambam, he talks about someone who's mefakfek in the inyan of Sheilas Shvuah, and the Rambam says it's posh you're allowed to do it. In fact, Mishali by noikfei bedavar zeh eino yelo shemetz minus. Now it's fascinating that he uses again the lashon of minus. Now really, if you looked at this Rambam in a vacuum, I'll tell you where my mind went. I would think of the raid that we spoke about, how the minim, right? If you remember the sefer from Yontif Milhuizen, where they're chapping about Kol Nidre and Ataras Nidarim and Ataras Sheila, there was a min digas sugya that very much related to Sheila Shvuah. So the person that doesn't want to be Sheila and a Shvuah, it's yesh possess shemetz minus, and it could be that's what the Rambam means. But at the end of the day, Sakra Bruchim Margolis, I have a Pischei Tshuva who brings from the Seilas Amincha in the name of the Teres Asham that if somebody is machmir on klisheni and someone's machmir on bittul b'shishin, it's a bechin of minus. And if somebody is not nizer in Chamim v'Shabbos, the Mechaber, the Ramah says in the end of Simmeration and Zayin and Hilchah Shabbos, there's an element of minus. And the Ram Rutenberg said that I used to think that somebody that was nizer in Gvina Achar a basar achakvina, like vina achabasar, a person like that is mamish a min. I came around Charlie Murray because I chab based on the Gemara Kufei Chu, and this is not something that's as bad as I thought it was. And the Rambam says in Ilchah Shvus regarding Shvus. So again, you have it in the sugyas of Taruvis, you have it in the sugyas of Hilchah Shabbos, you have it in the sugyas of Basa v'chalav, and you have it in the sugyas of Shvuas. Where b'mokim sha'amru chazal l'hakel, there's an element that it's not so pasha to be machmer. Because if somebody's going to be machmer in a situation like this, there's an element of minas. So what's pasha pshat? What's pasha pshat, the element of minas? So again, Chaman and Shabbos was the tzedukim, and Sheila Shvuah, I think for sure we could stel to all that raid from Yontif Milhuizen, etc. But Chazal say it's mutter, and if you're going to go ahead and you're going to be machmer, you're being frummer than Chazal. There's an element of minus. That means you don't trust Chazal 100%. Chazal said klisheni is not mevashal. Oh, the teretz is why? Because you did an experiment and you saw klisheni is mevashal. Chazal said it's not mevashal. Now, what the pshat in klisheni mevashal is? Kamakumas in the shtabraza. It's a legitimate question, but at the same time, Chazal said that klisheni is einem mevashal, and it's for that reason. This is something that we need to be makabel 100%. And if a person is not makabel at 100%, on some level, he's undermining Chazal. Reuven Margolis, in that piece, he says there's another element to this, and really that element is Mekoyra Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi is a classic Yerushalmi. It's in two places. It's in the first parak Masechta Shabbos. It's in the second parak Masechta Vayizar. This is famous. We mentioned the last machzor, this machzor. The Yerushalmi says as follows, very short. Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta nochas l'Netziven. So Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta, he once went to Netziven. Netziven was in Bavel. Ashkach, and when he was there, he met Simloi Hadroimi, Simloi, the southerner, who was from the southern part of Eretz Yisrael, Yosef Darshan. He saw Simloi Hadroimi was darshaning. And this is what he said. Rebbe, Ubeistinoi hitiru b'shemen. Rebbe and his bezdin were mat to shemen akum. So shemen akum in the sugyas of cholav akum, etc. Rebbe ubeistinoi hitiru b'shemen. So the Gemara says that when Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta heard what Simloi Adroimi said, he goes running into Beis Medrash and he goes to Shmuel first and he tells Shmuel, Gadol Adar, you heard? Rebbe ubeistinoi, they were mat to shemen akum. When Shmuel heard that, Shmuel achal. He ate shemen akum. So perfect. He took a little bit of shemen akum, dipped the sourdough into it, and he ate it. Rav loy kabel lam yechal. But Rav, when he heard the same exact thing, he didn't want to eat. He said, shemen akum is awesome. I'm going to eat Shmuel. So Shmuel went to Rav and he told him, I want you to eat shemen akum. The law came, because if you're not going to eat shemen akum, anakosev Allah zakim mamre. I'm going to say about you that you're a zakim mamre, because you're not being makabel the psak of the bezin agadol. You're not being makabel the psak. Who didn't see it? Amarle. So Rav told Shmuel, one second. You're going a little too fast. He said, Adanot Hamon. I used to be in Eretz Yisrael. Rav was in Eretz Yisrael the year went to Babel. So Rav said, when I was in Eretz Yisrael, I know Yoda man arale. I knew about this Indian. Simloi Adroimi. I know the Simloi Adroimi. Ich bin in Eretz Yisrael the year. To you, you're very impressed. I know Simloi Adroimi. Listen to me. I'm not nispal from his Messiah, from what he says. I'm not botching. Amalei. Shmuel told Rav, Mar b'shem garme. What, you think Simloi Adroimi is saying this on his own? La b'shem Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. He said b'shem Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. So I would agree with you. I'm being made of a mixas. If this is Simloi Adroimi's chiddush, I'm not saying you have to jump, but he said over there Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. The Gemara says Atrach aloi. The end Shmuel kept on badgering Rav until finally Va'achal, Rav, who was much older than Shmuel, but Rav ended up somehow conceding, and he ended up eating from the Shemen Akam. But you see from this Yerushalmi another Nakuda, and that is that if an Adam Gadol, somebody that people look up to, if he is going to go ahead and he is going to go keneged the psak of Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, he's being machmir b'makan sha'amru lahakel. And he's not doing it in a Bezdin Agadol. He's not doing it in the context of a Mrs. Bezdin. But at the same time, Shmuel told Rav, see, I don't think this would be a gay or regular guy. But a regular person, is you have to be on a madrega to be a Zakim Mamre. You need to meet a lot of qualifications, if you remember. But the bottom line is, someone of the ilk of Rav, who's on this level, if he's going to go ahead, he's going to be Machmer, there's already Bechin of Zakim Mamre. This is a well-known Yerushalmi. What's not so well known is Rabbi Ragola says, I have one more Maramakim. This is the last one. I have one more Maramakim, and this is a Chuvas HaRosh. This is mamish fascinating. So this is in Chuvas HaRosh, Klal Esrim Ve'echad. If you want to look it up, it's towards the end. It's Sif Cotton Ches Dash Dalet. Tshuva. So he's writing to someone who doesn't want to do tshuva over something very bad that he did regarding an Erev, right? Sounds like he's going to be making an Erev where people don't want him to make an Erev. But if you're holding cheshbon with the flow of the daf, it's actually be just the opposite. Ata, Rabbi Yaakov ber Moshe de Balincia. I already wrote to you about the Erev. I already said that it's mutter mikra din, is no shaila in the world, that if you have a mavi that's mefulish, the halacha is you're allowed to have a tzuras HaPesach, this is Erev 101, and it's going to be okay. And you said for that kal it's going to be also. And you told me you're right. By the way, this is incredible. I told you Shem ben Mamish that you think shtusim. The Rosh is talking. I warned you. That you better be chayser. I warned you. I said you better make an erev. I was told. This is mamish so important because all the pro-Erev Yidden throughout the Deiris, famous Chuvas Chacham Sofer, where it's based on the fact you're being machshel. Right? Remember the Gemara says I should eat by someone who lives in a shtot that doesn't have an Erev, because if there's no Erev, ultimately you're going to be machshel Yidden. Lochein ani geyser alecha, I'm being geyser on you. Achash ni nosen lechok savzeh be'edim shet tesakin hamavoyis hamufuloshim lushus ram shal goyim mitzuris pesach toich shvuayim. 2 weeks, after you see this. And if you're not going to listen, the Rosh tells him, I'm going to put you in Cherim. I want you to know if you were around in the times of the Sanhedrin, they'd give you Mises Bestin. Because you're going connected to the Gemara. The Gemara says that Tzuras HaPesach works, and you can't be more from than the Gemara. There's a postscript to this. It's Test Dash Beis. So he's writing this to the Chacham Rabbi Yaakov Rabbi Yitzchak, not to be confused with this Yid, Rabbi Yaakov ber Moshe de Balincia. Unbelievable. The Rosh talking. He says, the letter that I wrote to that person who's Chaser Mayach, it's mamish today's daf. V'acher tonuslai. V'im lo yachseboy ani master b'chai. I want you to know that if he's not going to be chayzer, I'm warning him. V'es kol hakol and the entire kehillah. She'yinagu boy nidui ba'oisei ha'meshugya Yaakov ber Moshe. He's Meshugana. I was the Rosh. Rosh Nuhul Chashmiris Aloshin, right? So this is what the Rosh is writing. V'yarchikeu v'yavdileu me'adas Yisrael. Kol dava zet tzarich chizuk shelo yovei kol shoyte chaser das levatul teres Moshe Rabbeinu olav hashalom. Because otherwise, every shoyte and every chaser das is going to come up with chumras, and he's going to be levatul teres Moshe Rabbeinu. V'nyamei b'mordai. And I want you to know if he's still not going to. The Rosh gave him a lot of chances. It's pretty clear. So the Rosh, again, you have to go back to the world of history. This is outside my lane to appreciate the protector that the Gedolei Yisrael had amongst the kings, and he said, I'm going to make sure that he's going to have to pay some sort of fine. Vani Geisner Alecha Rabbi Yaakov, Shetimser Ksavi Zeh LeMoshe Lo'ir, sheyig beknas hanisker. Say that the Rosh said he should pay $1,000 or whatever the number is. Then calls lo yoyel, and if that's not going to help, goes rani alecha shatoydieni akel. I want you to repeat I want you to keep me informed, keep me posted. And there's a mitzvah to put him in Chayrim and all the kilos in Sfard, v'gam yodunu oisay lamus bedin zakim mamre, and we should even try to find a way to kill him bedin zakim mamre. Now the rest of the story is, right, they bring here on the bottom, this is the Mechon Yerushalayim, Tshuvas HaRosh, Shitas Rabbeinu be'inyan dinei nefasha b'zman hazeh re'ei b'chlal yud zayin. We spoke about one of these Roshes once with a Zayna, but the bottom line is the Rosh was not so opposed to capital punishment, afilu b'zman hazeh. This is a whole Shitas HaRosh that's way beyond the scope of this. Ki anu chayavim limsay nafsheisenu al teiris alikim ulevar oisna harami kerbenu va'ata shloim chalecha v'chulu. I love you, mamish kenefesh v'toivascha osher ben Rabbi Yechiel zechet tzaddik levracha, because this was obviously printed after his petira. But here's another example where the Rosh was so upset about somebody that was being machmir b'makim she'amru lahakal. He was going keneged this halacha of Atzuris HaPesach by a mavim of foolish, and he was invoking the Yerushalmi. He don't quote the Yerushalmi, but he means the Yerushalmi. It's Pashas of Rabbi Margolis. He means that just like Shmuel told Rav, Echol deloikin anokasav alach zakim mamre. So if this Yid, obviously was a Talmud Chacham, he was someone that had the ear of the people, and he said, if you're going to be machmir b'chay gavno and you're going to go blatantly keneged alach and Shulchan Aruch, this is a geferlich azach. The bottom line is we have a fascinating idea. Usually when you think of chumras, you think of a machmir tavei olav bracha. It's a murder gazach. But you see, it's not so pashut. You have to be shoikel this with, at the same time, realizing and appreciating that sometimes if a person is machmer, b'makom she'amru chazal lehedya lahakel, well, this already is an element of minus. And if a person's about hachi, there could be a dimension over here of zakim mamri, which is the chamish of the chamuros. But just to chazer over, the zakim mamri was given Misas Bezin, not just any Misas Bezin, it was given skila, and it's one of the 4 times that it says in the Torah, V'cholam Yishmu V'yiro. It's one of the 4 times that it had to be done by the Aliyah L'Rega when all the Yidden were there, because it undermines the it undermines the Messiah. Because if someone's going to go ahead and he's going to go ahead and go connect the Messiah, so just think about what it is that it's doing. And that's this Indian of not being allowed to go and be machmer. It's not something that's okay, but here's the chiddush. Usually when you think of the sugya, you think it in terms of chumrah, or you think in terms of kula. You're going to be meiko b'makom she'amru lahachmer. But you see, it goes the other way as well. You're not allowed to be machmer b'makom she'amru lahakil. And just think about it. We had the Pischei Tshuva brings from with regards to klisheni. You want to be machmer. I want to say klisheni is mavashal. I want to be machmer. I don't want to eat a tipas chalav that falls into a kteris. But who would want to eat a chunk like that? This shishim, but I want to be machmer. This is something that I'm not okay. I'm not going to eat chamen b'Shabbos. That's so easy to eat chamen b'Shabbos. Guy doesn't eat chamen b'Shabbos. Says the Ramah with chayish that maybe there's a little bit of an element of minus over it. This is so pashet. The Maram in Rutenberg said, "Be mechurfi sharli mar." They should be meichel me. But I used to mamish believe in my heart of hearts. I used to think that if somebody is machmer in basa like gvina chabasa, it's mamash a bechina of minus. The Rambam says that if somebody has a little bit of doifi in the of sheila shvua, this is also a bechina of minus. Rav didn't want to eat shemenakum. Shemenakum was something that was awesome. He heard a rumor. A yid kum from Eretz Yisrael, a yid that Rav felt didn't have so much credibility. A yid kum from Eretz Yisrael, and we didn't see it was matter. Rav says, I'm just not going to eat it. But Shem Baltais, I have to eat Shem and Agos Getachon if I know it. I'll buy kosher oil. You better eat it, because otherwise it's going to be a bechin of Zakin Mamre. And this year who became Azaf Frumer, and he doesn't want to make an Erev Mavim of foolish. I mean, it's a hard stuff, right? With Tzuras HaPesach, there's a bechin of Zakin Mamre. Everyone knows to be Meiko b'makim she'amru lahachmer is a terrible thing. And if it's Keneged Mefurish Halacha, I mean, Russia, there's no other way to describe it. It's a one-word description. This is his whole Yiches brief, Russia. But the truth is, it goes in the reverse as well. And for a person to go ahead and be machmesh amru l'hakel is not so pashut. The question is, how do you really reconcile this? It's a little bit hard. I mean, this is how we're walking away from this raid bite. But is that true? So it's never okay to be machmer on something that's mutter. What about the kaddish atzmecha b'mutalach? Right? Shouldn't that fall in a little bit to the equation? It's a good question. And be'ezer Hashem, this question and a mahalach will be the topic of tomorrow's raid.